All right, good morning, KOTA Territory. Welcome to your KOTA's Political Pulse. I'm Humberto Gile Sanchez, your host. I'm joined today by investigative reporter Blake Troli here. I feel like you should be introducing me since I haven't been on for the last two.
I've been doing the solo act.
I know,
it's just
quite literally every time that you've asked or that we've scheduled something, I've had something come up, and unfortunately I haven't been able to do it. But I'm here now. We're ready. We're joined today by a special guest. Would you please introduce yourself here?
I'm Trish Ladner. I'm representative for District 30.
All right. Well, thank you, Trish.
It's
good to see you here on KOTA's Political Pulse. So really quickly, before we get into the questions, how has your day been going so far today?
Fantastic.
That's good.
It's been a really good day.
Are you excited? And just so our viewers know, this is being recorded on Tuesday, July 1st. So really quickly, with that in mind, how are you planning to enjoy your 4th of July this Friday?
We're going to go on a picnic and probably a parade or two.
Excellent.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be any this year. I'm usually in most of them, but more of a personal 4th of July. I think it'll be fun.
A little low key this time.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, Blake. Now for the serious question. Here you go.
Well, in all seriousness, we talked about you coming on here, and one of the discussions we had is that you really just wanted to have a broader discussion about toning down political rhetoric, and this is in response to our neighboring state, Minnesota, where we saw political violence take shape in a really high-profile way with the killing of a state lawmaker, I believe the attempted killing of another state lawmaker, politically motivated. When you look at that as a politician from a neighboring state, what goes through your mind when you look at that case?
Oh, just tragedy, remorse, a sense of loss that it's hard to explain, because you don't go into office thinking that you're going to be in personal harm or danger's way. You're there because you have a heart for the people. And hopefully you have a heart for the people and you're not there for a cause. But it is just as tragic. Right away, Legal Research Council took all our personal information off of our listings on the website because it had our addresses on it and stuff like that. So I appreciate that. But the fact that we've come to this juncture is horrifying. And I think that until we can ratchet down the rhetoric and get decorum and respect back, this has a potential of happening again.
And what do you think bringing down the heat, bringing it back down to a simmer and reestablishing decorum looks like to you?
Respect, decorum, professionalism, everything that the office should require. When I first started in the legislature 5 years ago, there was a wonderful culture of decorum and respect. I went to Pierre before I started, when I was sworn in, to observe a committee, and it was on the Veterans Committee. And they were just having a hot and heavy discussion. And they were arguing back and forth, testifying back and forth. And then it came time for the vote. And they voted, and it was defeated. And the thing that impressed me the most is that as the legislators got up, it was kind of like bygones. I'll bring it back next year. Want to go have dinner? There wasn't any, anger. There wasn't any grudge. There wasn't any, get out of my way, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And that impressed me, that they could leave it on the table and still be friends, because I'm going to need your vote tomorrow. And you may want my vote 2 days from now. So I think we've lost some of that.
Where did you see it get off trail? Is there a point in time, a significant landmark where you could say, this is where I think the wheels started to come off?
I think if we look broader, I think it started in Washington, D.C., and the rhetoric between Republicans and Democrats. They're very aggressive, and they stick to the same soundbite. I think our culture changed a little bit when a portion of the House, or the portion of the legislature, Senate and House, set out to change the culture a little bit. And they recruited specific people to run against specific people. And the culture started to change. And it's hard to deal with sometimes, because I'm kind of a team builder, and I've never been able not to build a team. and it's getting harder and harder. That chasm's becoming wider and wider. So.
So your overall message is to it seems like to lawmakers right now, is we need to
Dial
dial it down, reestablish decorum, and maybe respectfully disagree with each other, as opposed to have some of these political battles that we're seeing play out.
I think too is we need to have the conversation. We've lost the art of conversation, and I miss that. Heaven forbid I learned something by talking to you, or you learned something by talking to me. We may not change our opinion, but we've had the conversation, and it's gotten so bad that I have to really assess whether I want to go to a Cracker Barrel or not, depending on who's hosting it. Elevate Rapid City puts on a wonderful Cracker Barrel. It's very organized, very respectful, and I love going to those. Custer Hill City always has a uniformed sheriff in the back of the room. Then I also have Fall River County and Pennington County that I don't feel safe in. And so, I really have to weigh it, because I've had people literally leaning over a table and they're so angry they're spitting in my face. And property tax is a really volatile subject. True reform takes time. And people are afraid because they run the risk of losing their home and being taxed out of it. I've been working on taxes for 5 years. And we've made some good progress in a lot of areas, but let's have a little respect,
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned progress, and just kind of trying to switch the topics here. I mean, how does that progress look like over those 5 years? How has that looked like? How has it kind of evolved, at least?
We got the conversation going from a subject no one wanted to talk about to everyone's talking about it now. My thing is to try to find a system that functions within the current system that fixes the issue, not to blow up the system, because that's irresponsible. So the conversations are good. When they did the productivity model for ag, that took 10 years. Things like this don't happen overnight, and they really shouldn't. But I think what Governor Roden tried to do is implement his tax policy as a stop the bleeding till we find the real solution. And people are saying it's a bad bill. It was a bad bill. It wasn't, and it's not the permanent bill. So we're working really hard on it. The thing I don't want to have happen is that it becomes a political tool for campaigning, and that's kind of what happened last. You were there. We had over 20 property tax bills.
I think the first interview I did here, because I was doing a story on property taxes, I think you were the first lawmaker I talked to with my when I started at KOTA.
So.
Well, in the last meeting, this is now the summer study on property taxes, they set the goal of slashing property taxes by 50%. As a policymaker, how likely do you think it is they're going to find that solution? I was looking at a report. I did not attend that meeting. The next one will be here, West River. But this one was on the other side of the state, but it appeared there was a few things that they were eyeing, possibly finding new ways, almost supplement taxes so that you could alleviate the property taxes, budget cuts, spending cuts, and reallocation of funds. Of all of those things, do you identify any way in which they're going to be able to achieve this goal?
Let me think. They can achieve it. One thing, I like Senator Melhoff's proposal, was taking off some of the
I believe it's to remove if I read this correctly, it's to remove the schools from the county property tax burden, implement a new state tax, right? I believe.
Like a penny on top of this tax.
And then put the state tax money towards the schools. If we're talking about the same one.
Yeah. The only problem with that is that the state constitution mandates that property taxes be paid. K through 12 education be funded through property taxes. So they'd have to be looking at a constitutional amendment, or Van Huysen's bill last year would have reduced that mill levy down to 0, so it still remains. So you could do kind of an end run around that one, but we are dealing with constitutionality. I think the budgets do need to be cut. We'd love to do our own Doge, but it's hard. Because if they do the sales tax thing, there's 2 buckets. One is sales tax, and that goes to the state. The other is property taxes, and that goes back to the counties to run all the ancillary program, the firefighters, roads, snow removal, ambulance, you know, all the services, and their budget. If it turns into a sales tax, that goes back to the state. So you've lost local control. And I'm the state chair for ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Council in DC, and all the states are talking about tax reform. So I've had some good conversations with legislators from every state. And their biggest problem with that type of tax is that you do lose local control. And services technically aren't funded anymore. Not that they won't be funded, but you lose that local control. So like say we wanted a gymnasium in Buffalo Gap. The people in Sioux Falls could say, You know, I mean, you lose that. Everyone wants local control. Everyone wants to keep our services local and our funds local. So that's where you get into like a sticky wicket a little bit.
I'm curious what you make. I know some of the county representatives, and again, this is all from us reading because the meetings have yet to take place on our side of the state. They expressed some concerns over, you know, what any of these would do to their own funding. Do you think, or how do you think the state should move forward as the counties have expressed that, you know, they have concerns with what any of these proposals will do to their funding and their needs?
Well, counties are capped at 3% plus new growth. So they're always going to get their 3%. That's from the property taxes, unless that changes. But they say that they'll still get their funding, you know. I'm going to have to listen to their arguments when they come West River, but I think that nobody likes change. Nobody likes for someone to come in and say, you know, you're going to have to cut 25% out of your budget, or 10% or 2%. Nobody likes change, especially corporate. And so it might be a little painful. You know, there are going to be readjustments. But that's kind of life too. If you're not changing, you're not growing. And our state is changing, and it is growing. So we're going to have to somehow accommodate that, which is good because you're going to be bringing in more property taxes, more funding. But it's going to be hard. And like I said, productivity for ag took 10 years. And it was a bitter pill when they implemented it for a lot of the ranchers. But they knew they had to kind of bite that bullet, get through it, and then productivity and the Olympic 8-year average would kick in. So.
And how does how does West River kind of get this growth, you know, that we're talking about? How does it kind of, when compared to East River, right? You have more, you have the biggest city in South Dakota, Sioux Falls, out there. So how does kind of, you know, at least West River kind of get that growth going, at least in your eyes, in your opinion?
I think it is going. When I did a spreadsheet of Department of Revenue figures from 2019 to 2024. So COVID was 2020, and we have grown like crazy. We have 66 counties. 63 of them had double-digit increases in their assessed value. 2 had a triple-digit, and 1 had single-digit. And so that makes it a statewide issue. It's not just West River. We're saying, oh, it's just the Black Hills. Minnehaha, Lincoln, Sioux Falls, everybody's growing. Even little Leola up by Aberdeen is becoming a bedroom city for Aberdeen. And I don't know if you've noticed, but all those like old farmhouse ranches that have been sitting empty for so long, people are coming in and refurbishing them and rebuilding the little farms. And
there's a whole Instagram page to each of them, probably.
Probably. So, you know, we are growing. And I just want, we were talking before, I'd like to see a plan for that growth so that we don't become a cement city.
Right, and you do hear about kind of the growth a lot, but you don't really hear about how to tackle that growth and how to correctly figure out how to handle it. But something that you brought up a little bit earlier while we were talking about kind of the whole taxes subject, you mentioned a little bit about how you would like to see South Dakota kind of have its own Doge in a way. Yeah. How would that look like, at least in South Dakota? Or at least from what you would like to see, if that ever does happen.
If I think it'd look a lot like DC. I mean, every department, I asked last year for a forensic audit and I kind of got reaction. But, you know, we need to tighten up. We need to, I want to be honest. I want to be straightforward. I want the people's tax money to be spent correctly. And I think that in any large, because it's a corporation, it's a business, there are times when you have to go in and tighten the belt, see what, maybe we don't need 14 people in this department. Maybe it runs very well with 5. I think that's just good business.
Have you identified, I'm just curious, after you made that comment, I was thinking myself, like, have you identified any areas in where you say, yeah, South Dakota, we definitely need to watch our spending in this category. We need to reduce spending in this category. We're over leveraging here.
I don't know. What do you think?
Let me give you my thoughts, and this will be the last day I work at KOTA Territory News.
Oh, man. You weren't lying when we were first talking. Like, you got to be careful of me. So.
Oh, gosh. That's kind of a loaded question because we haven't, you know, peeled back that onion yet. So just corporately, it makes sense. Some of the budgets are very large. Some can justify that. But I think we need to look at the whole.
Do you think it needs an audit before you can really make that determination?
Yeah, like a forensic audit.
Yeah.
Not just an internal audit.
Do you think there may be I mean, because when you look at the property tax issue and they're looking at budget cuts being one of the possible solutions to getting this 50%, do you think there could be an appetite for a forensic audit like you're talking about to really look at the spending and see where there might be some adjustments?
I think there are legislators that would be very interested in that. Maybe not all of them. Haven't talked to all of them about it, but I know that there are quite a few that would like to see that happen.
I want to shift gears here a little bit. Elephant in the room, because again, we are taping this today, Tuesday, before this airs, so almost a week before this will air. But Congressman Dusty Johnson announced his bid for governor yesterday. That puts him in the race with Aberdeen businessman Toby Doden and Speaker of the House John Hanson, and of course he's already. Him and Carla Lems, Representative Lems, have already formed their own coalition there for governor, lieutenant governor. I'm curious what you make of Dusty's announcement yesterday. I don't think it was much of a surprise to anybody in the state. It was kind of a waiting game of when that was going to come down. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
It didn't surprise me. I think that he had a very good speech. It was concise, it was positive and uplifting. I appreciated that. He's got good experience. And I think I like some of the things that he's done in Washington, D.C. And I just wasn't surprised about it. I'm not sure that the field is closed yet. There may be 1 or 2 more hop in. And so I think that'll just give people more choices. But I'm glad he announced. I think he did a very professional, upbeat presentation. His video was good. I like that.
Well, we won't ask you to endorse a candidate on here today. I am curious if you'd like to see a crowded Republican primary.
Oh, I've been in like a 6-way. Okay, I don't like crowded.
But you came out on top.
Yeah. I might be in an 8-way next time. But I never endorse anyone before the primary. So you can't trap me.
All right, we won't. We won't.
But no, it would be such a transition. I mean, just to see if that, you know, just to see how it comes out, anyways, at the end of this whole election. Just to see how, I mean, if he does end up winning, that transition between, you know, Washington D.C. to back to South Dakota, that'll be interesting. At least, you know, how much do you keep your foot out of, you know, Washington D.C. politics now that you know how that works out there? And at least that was something that was interesting. At least seeing how the former governor handled that. And I
feel like I could also see there just being an argument for a U.S. congressman might not want to be governor, and vice versa. It's almost, I mean, and you maybe could speak to this, but I think there are people who are passionate about state level politics, and there's people who are passionate about federal level politics. So it's kind of interesting to see somebody in a Congress seat, he's been holding it now for some time, since 2019, to say, oh, I want to transition back into state level politics.
What it sounded like with his opening announcement is that his heart's here, his family's here, and I'm sure he's really, it seemed like from what he said that he really enjoyed DC, but that his passion's for South Dakota. And I can understand that. I can also, when Governor Noem came back from DC, she brought a lot of DC staff with her, and they didn't stay long. And I think it's such a different atmosphere, but if your heart has been here, this is your home, then coming home is a good thing. You know, that's your passion then. But yeah, I think I can see him coming back and working.
Now we've got to almost talk about his seat that's going to be left vacant. Attorney General Marty Jackley has announced that he's going to be after that seat. Do you anticipate that to be a pretty hefty race, given that vacancy?
Could be. I've heard of just rumors of like 3 or 4 jumping in. So it could be a pretty interesting race. I know Senator Crabtree's considering it, and a few others. So we'll see what happens. I can picture them in both of them in DC. So I guess we just have to wait and see how they campaign. One thing I don't appreciate is the amount of money that they're able to spend on campaigns. I wish we could do something about that, you know, or you limit it, or you limit the amount you can totally spend. Because as a voter, I don't want to vote for you just because you had a lot of money, or, you know, you kind of, oh yeah, I recognize him, he's been on every other commercial. So I wish we could kind of rein that in a little bit and bring it back to more of a grassroots, you know, the only one that benefits from campaigns are printers and TV and radio.
Not us.
Did you hear something?
What do you want to say about that one, Umberto? I was talking about putting you on the spot.
I know. Oh my goodness! But
I told you so.
Yeah,
if it makes you feel any better, I actually don't. We are so detached from our sales department here. I have no idea what that actually looks like. But of course, yeah, you see the political ads. You hear them on radio. You see them on TV. You see them in print. When you say reining that in, I'm curious, you know, what kind of reform you'd like to see on that level. And I would imagine that a congressional seat and our Senate seats definitely take a lot more national interest when it comes to fundraising. I cap the expense. I mean, cap how much that you can put out there. I mean, I'm sure, you know, they're going to spend multi-millions of dollars on the governor's race. I don't know, I guess I'm so practical as, do we need that? I mean, I'd rather have them spend more time in the field getting to know the people personally, you know, talk to me.
Rather than just being on a commercial or on the paper or on the billboard.
Or another postcard.
Yes. Okay. You know, kind of talk a little bit about kind of the election. I mean, is there anything, I mean, when it comes to the election, what exactly should our viewers kind of keep an ear out for specifically on the ballot?
Ooh. Well, I think you need to do your research, no matter what the issue is on the ballot. A lot of people will call and say, why did you vote this way? One of my hardest votes when I first started was a homeschool bill. And I love homeschool. You know, I support homeschoolers. But the bill was really bad. And you didn't find that out till you got to about page 8 or 9. And they were eliminating testing and all the requirements for homeschoolers, and it just was not academically or a good bill. So I voted against it, but then I called my homeschoolers at home and told them why. And they understood, oh, we didn't know it said that. So I think you need to take a deep dive and do some research into whatever ballot measure there is, and really, really don't stop at the first paragraph. And read it through. Have people over and talk about it, because lots of times people don't even look at their ballot till the night before they vote. And you really need to, because it could be one word. On that egg bill that I passed, the grassland egg bill, they only changed one word, and that was from the assessor shall to the assessor may. Changes the whole deal, that one word. So you have to really take the time.
And May got through.
Yeah.
It just didn't turn into anything, unfortunately.
It took me 3 years to change one word.
You were we should talk about this.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting story, in my opinion, just because it's one word.
One word.
You had written a bill essentially around the appraisal of agricultural property.
Soil types, yeah.
Yeah, and soil types. And I'll let you take the floor with this.
Well, in ag, there are different soil levels, and class 4 is one of the kind of gray areas. It could go crop, it could go grass. Grass is taxed at a much lower rate. Out here, West River, we only have 2 irrigated districts. I think it's 2. So everything is grassland, never been tilled, or shouldn't be. And so anyway, I took this bill, I think we drove 14,000 miles across the state promoting this bill. And anyway, it got defeated. And then some of the lobbyists and some of the legislators got together late at night and said, we're going to hoghouse a bill and put this one into it, which means you kind of gut one and you put a new bill into it. And it was my first year, or second year. It was like, I was so excited. I didn't know anything about it till the next morning when it came to the floor. They didn't, I was great. I'm so thankful. So I read it quickly. That's where I learned not to do that. And the only word that they had changed in the whole thing was the shall to may. And ranchers started calling me, all my ranchers, and saying, what's going on? The assessor won't come out and reassess my property. She says she doesn't have to. I said, yes, she does. It's law. I mean, yes, she does. And then I got out both pieces of legislation. I read it, thinking, oh, no. And I called Department of Revenue, talked to Wendy Sumler, and she said, yep, it gives them the discretion.
Because it's may versus you shall.
If you feel like it,
so interesting.
If you feel like it, go ahead. And so it took 3 years to get. I kept bringing the bill back to change the one word, and this year we passed it.
Yeah, when you explain that, and when I read a bill now, there's definitely that story, and you just in general, when you're really reading a bill, you have to look at those tiny little words that. They mean a lot, because
they mean a lot.
This is now legal language. This is a lot different than I'm just telling you something, verbatim. What do you see any issues emerging next legislative session?
Oh yeah.
Want to give us your forecast?
No.
Okay.
Oh no, it's going to be a lot of gotcha moments. I believe, and I've heard there's going to be legislation that, we're going to track how you vote in committee, we're going to track how you vote in the House, and we're going to scorecard you if you don't toe the line on our cause. Well, I'm not there for a cause. I'm not. I'm there for the people of District 30 in the state. Whatever's best for them. I don't care if you like, red ducks. I don't care. That's your cause, and I'm not going to be graded by a scorecard on if I met your agenda or not. I'm not there to meet your agenda.
Who do you think is putting out these scorecards?
Oh, everyone is.
Right.
I mean, Elevate has one that goes with economic development. Citizens for Liberty, they judge if you're, whatever against their issues. They'll have certain bills that they're, supporting, and if you didn't support it, you get dinged. And I don't believe in scorecards, so that's okay. But a lot of people do, and they don't understand, like Joe Public doesn't understand that it's a reflection of that organization's mission statement, values, causes. It's not how you voted overall on all subjects. So.
And we have time for one more quick question, Blake, if you want to take it away.
I feel like I'm tapped out. I think we've kind of hit everything here. Is there anything you want to leave us with?
No, I just hope everyone had a good 4th of July. I hope we all stay safe traveling. And I look forward to next legislative session and see if we can get some good legislation through for the people and some good work on taxes.
Alrighty, well, thank you for joining us here on KOTA's Political Pulse. It's been a pleasure to talk to you today. And as for you watching right now, we'll see you right back here next Monday. But for now, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.